Well, thank you for being willing to talk to me tonight, Ryan. First of all, had you heard of Canlock before you got the product in the mail?
I had not, aside from our conversation about it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So now that you've seen it, what are your thoughts about the company?
I really like it overall. The glass, I've been playing around with it a bit. It is really good, high quality, and I haven't been like throwing it on the ground or anything. But they do a really solid job with the glass. I think I might have broken one of my seals because I got over enthusiastic on the first day, and I have noticed one of them doesn't really seal anymore. But that was good because it gave me an opportunity to see what it was like broken versus unbroken.
And how was that? What difference did you notice?
I mean, I immediately get the heavy earthy overtones. I have 14-ish gram and a half joints in this one, because that's how many I just like to keep on hand in case. And I've got like a quarter and about 10 grams in this one. And I can't really get a scent off of either jar. It actually works really impressively well. The knob rises noticeably when I open these two, that I haven't over squeezed. That I did look over the documentation that came with them, and I didn't see a notification about don't over pump the vacuum, because that is, I think, what caused the failure in this unit. I just got so excited that first day.
So where do you typically store your weed?
I have a converted toolbox, actually, because it's good, heavy, it provides some temperature insulation, and it's not exactly airtight. It does certainly muffle the smell. Also, it provides me with a place to place a lock, because as a parent, particularly a parent with an abusive ex, making sure that my medicine is secure is paramount to me. I can't ever afford to have somebody come in and say I'm being irresponsible with my medicine, because I take care of other people. So for me, I find the toolbox is ideal.
Mm-hmm. Is it the kind of thing where you would put the Canlock in the toolbox if it was available, or is it one or the other?
No, actually, I was keeping them in both, because the nice thing about the toolbox is it blocks light. I love my glass jars. I truly do. I have a huge collection of ones from work, but UV rays and light itself can damage your THCV and convert it to THC, which slowly degrades. And so my sister always covered her jars back in the 90s with electrical tape for a similar effect, because by blocking the light, you are helping preserve your flower, the same as keeping it in a cool, dry place. Cool, dry, and dark for a reason, because light degrades your flower. So I like this for keeping it airtight, keeping it from drying out. I have been slowly pulling flower from each of these jars and noticed that the density, the dankness, the humidity of it hasn't really significantly degraded. It's really nice, actually, better even than my standard jars that just seal shut really solid.
Okay. Have you heard about or seen anything like this out on the market, or does this feel different to you?
I feel like I might have seen something similar, but it was way priced out of this range. This is a much more affordable product. Honestly, I looked on their website, I looked at their price points. The other stuff I was looking at was like pressure valves built into ball jars kind of level, and they wanted, $50 for a jar, same as a lot of artists want for hand blown jars. These are a lot more affordable, a lot more economical, and frankly, they work. So, I mean, that effectiveness is a huge check plus.
Mm. So if you were, aware of this and then going to tell your store purchasing, what's the title of your store purchasing person?
Inventory manager.
In the inventory manager, hey, I saw this new product. How would you describe it to him or her?
Essentially, I would say it's a stash jar with a vacuum seal in the lid with a hand pump. And for me, one of the huge selling angles that I would certainly bring up is the fact that I roll big joints. I mean, I'm not a small man, and these joints are as long as my longest finger. And these fit my joints. I'll show you what I was using before I got
Right.
this jar, just for a reference point. Joints typically come in these sort of plastic tubes. You get one joint per tube mostly, sometimes you get two. And I like to recycle these because I'm an Oregonian. I hate littering, I hate garbage, and there's no proper way to recycle these. There's a huge amount of plastic waste. And so these, however, 14 of these creates a bundle like that. And it is a huge pain for me to carry my medicine around. I like joints. And so having something like this, where I don't know if you can get a great view of how many joints are in there, but yeah, I've got 7 up and 7 down, and that's about 3/4 of an ounce of flour ground up and ready to smoke, which is an incredible plus for me as a medical patient, just to be able to toss that in my shoulder bag or my work bag or any other of my child-proof containers for transport and take that with me. That's awesome.
Mm.
It's amazing. And I would gladly pay upwards of $20 for something like that. That's fabulous.
So on the other hand, if you were explaining it to a customer that came in, how would you describe it to him or her in a way that used jargon that makes sense to them?
Probably start by pointing out how stank and loud their weed is and how good ours is, and how as soon as you open it, it's like, damn. And so this would seal all that away, because that's a problem we all have. We all have jobs, we all have families, and not everybody approves and not everybody believes. We all got attacked by skunks all the time. And so having something on you where you can just seal it away and be a little stealthy, keep it on the DL, that's pretty huge.
Mm-hmm. Are there certain types of customers that you think would be the right profile or target for this kind of a product?
Honestly, a lot of them. I mean, there are some that just come in, they just get what they want. They're not interested in small talk. They're not interested in upselling. They only buy what they're going to smoke that day and they're gone. They're not interested in any of the other stuff. But there are a lot of people who use it as medicine. There are a lot of people who buy more than the minimum and they want to make sure that it's staying fresh. And to a lot of those people, I think there's a really broad appeal for this kind of product, because essentially you don't even have to use these for flour. You can just use these to keep your other precious herbs fresh. They're great for any sort of dried flower or herb or leaf.
Were there any, besides obviously it sounds like there may have been an over pump issue that should be, like you said, mentioned in the directions not to over pump, just like not overfill something. Are there any other opportunities for improvement based on any shortcomings you perceived in experimenting with the Canlock?
Honestly, I found that that was the main thing, and I played with them fairly extensively. They seal and reseal really well as long as they're only pumped maybe like once or twice. I think I might have pumped this one like 5 or more times at once, and it rises all the way up. Yeah, in less than a second, it's fully extended again. And
yeah, that was on the big one.
yes,
you know what? I have to say I had a problem with the big one too, and I didn't have a problem with the little one. So I don't know if maybe there was a batch or maybe the mechanism with this bigger one's fitting differently. Because it's interesting you say that, because I had the same issue. Now, how important is freshness to most of your customers? Like the ones that obviously who are buying for the day, I guess it's not. Is freshness even something that comes up?
I don't know. I mean, yes and no, because even the people who are buying just for that day, they ask after harvest dates. And so they do care about how it is being stored. And even the people that are just buying for the day, a lot of them really do want to know it's been stored well, it's been grown well. A lot of them are, I'm from Oregon, the land of, oh, do you have this chicken, with his wing around another chicken? What's his name? Colin, all of that. Like, we need to know all of the things about our everything. And so, yeah, people care. They're snobs about how they store their flour. They're like, oh, well, if you're not storing it this way, then you're just wasting your flour. We get those people in all the time, because that's who we are really as Oregonians. We're all opinionated. If you get us to open up, you find that out. Like, we all have opinions. things, but we're just a little recalcitrant about sharing those.
If a company were to sell their product inside something like this, what would that say about the company?
I would definitely say it means that they care about the freshness of their product. That's one of the things that I like about my dispensary, for example, is we use glass jars, not vacuum seal ones, sure, because obviously there is going to be a price consideration when it comes to dispensary level, because you're moving so many of them that it's going to affect any number of things at a management level decision. But I would say, yeah, I mean, it's worth, in my opinion, paying the extra money for, or even if you had a way of having people bring in their sterilized containers to refill on the spot sort of thing, that would be really nice. Because like I said, waste is a huge problem for me. And so if companies sold their product in these, either at the farm or dispensary level, I definitely think it means that they care a lot about the freshness and quality of their medicine, which is ultimately what it is.
And is your dispensary a traditional or like a deli style dispensary?
I've only really been in the industry about 3 years, and to me, like, deli style seems a lot more of what you get around here, so that always seemed kind of more traditional, whereas what was Shango and is now Define, we've always used glass jars, pre-weighed out, usually to the maximum variance, which is a little thing we try and just throw in there. Because you can sell it as a gram as long as it's plus or minus so much. We always try and make sure it's plus so much as a little way of loving our customers a bit more. And so it's, yeah,
Okay.
I definitely always feel it's a sign of quality. We do a recycling program where people can turn in their jars for points that they add up and build into coupons. And people definitely talk about how they notice it, because other places they do it in plastic jars where you can get pieces of plastic literally in your flour that you're then smoking and ingesting, or they put it in plastic bags, and then your flour gets crushed and powdery and stuck to the sides of the bag, and you're scraping it out. And
Is quality of flour and freshness one of the reasons that people might go to Define as opposed to another dispensary?
yes, absolutely.
So it sounds like, but I'm going to ask you anyways, that the kind of customers you have, are they coming in and just saying, hey, I have 20 bucks and let me know what I want to spend it on or what I should? Or are they asking you recommendations on what's the best?
Ooh, I would say about 30% of the first and 40% of the second, honestly, and 30% more that ask me other things, or they come in asking for a particular strain that probably we don't have, because people come in and they ask for one specific strain and there are literally hundreds. And so you have to then say, okay, so what end result are you looking for? Or at least that's the way I go about it, because I'm very results based.
And when people come in asking for a specific strain, where are they hearing about the strains that they're coming in with that level of specificity?
Usually it's a friend who sent them an article, or they read it on one of the various websites like Weed Match or Leafly, or they saw a YouTube video, and they haven't had a chance to do their own research, except for basically getting research from other people. But as I like to remind people, everybody's body's built differently. You know, as I used to say in the law firm, I can't give you any promises one way or the other. I can't give you any specific legal advice. And I say in the dispensary, I can't give you any medical advice. But we all have to use ourselves as guinea pigs. You know, we all have to find out how we react to these things in order to determine how best to take care of ourselves. And it's a difficult, high self-monitoring kind of situation. And I try and break my customers into it slowly, gently.
Do your customers ever come back to you complaining about dry weed or old weed?
They used to. Back when we were part of a multi-state corporation and chain, and I'm not going to bore you with the horror stories of that, but honestly, Not so much anymore. I've had one or two people come in and say, oh, the harvest date was a little while ago. And I say, okay, how was the flower? And they're like, it was okay. And so, I mean, they're not exactly complaining. More it's, I think, a credit to us for getting our packaging so on point. One of the things we did, we had to upgrade the size of our sticker from what we had back in the day when we changed names and everything. We changed the size of the sticker to make sure we were staying compliant, including all the information and things. And it ended up the way I talked everybody into doing it is we seal the jar good and tight, and then we lay the sticker across as an additional seal because it hadn't been that way in the corporate days. You could just literally pull out any jar out of the front stock and crack the lid and say, here, smell that, isn't that great? So that was one of the little pushes I helped give, me and a few other people, to make sure that we were keeping those seals on tight. And so I don't know if that had any direct result, but I hear very few complaints about how dry our flower is. And honestly, anymore, nothing sits around long enough for anybody to complain about the harvest date being too long ago. Since all of this started a couple months ago, my Lord, business has been at least 15% above average minimum, I would say.
And besides the functionality of putting the label over the jar, was there some secondary marketing effect that made people want to buy that jar as opposed to a jar that didn't have the label over it? Like, did it have a halo effect for having done that?
Say that it certainly was a sales point that I used in multiple sales. People were like, well, how do I know how fresh that is? And I say, look, it was packaged by our packaging experts. This is their initial for the person who did the packaging. It has not been open since it was packaged. See the sticker. And so, I mean, for the people who are picky, who do want to make sure that it hasn't been sitting in a jar, because that is with the deli style dispensaries, for the people who don't like that, who do really appreciate not having flour that is at all stale. When you're constantly burping a jar like that, you are repeatedly letting out terpenes and moisture. And so keeping it sealed the entire time, only really having it out in the open for, half an hour while it's being packaged, I think has a significant effect. I mean, I buy our flour all the time, and I go to other places sometimes and I try, but I don't know, maybe I'm spoiled.
Well, I was wondering, back in the day when you were in a more corporate environment, how did the store handle when someone would come back and complain about dry or old weed?
Generally, we would react as anybody who suffers under a corporate overlord. We would smile. We would say, I'm really sorry to hear that. And if they complained a lot, probably the manager would try and get them a 10% discount. We were a little bit more liberal with the discounts, I would say, than some of the other stores in the chain, because we were two of the only ones that had independent ownership. So we had an extra buffer of protection from the overlords in the form of our owner. And though that meant endless headaches for him, he did a lot to keep us still functioning and able to take care of our customers, and having that freedom to make goodwill changes when bad will came down the pipe from upstairs. We took care of it. And that was a really nice thing. That's why I'm glad that we left that structure but kept our owner, because he cares about the community a lot.
And do you sell any accessories or storage containers in your store?
No storage containers. I'm not sure exactly why. Probably because if you want a storage container, you just buy an eighth of weed and you get, they're not bad glass jars. They're solid, like herb jars. These are, super thick, which is part of the reason why we offer a return, because these things, you can drop one of these on gravel and it may well not break. They are super solid. But as expensive, the glassware is probably more expensive with one of these than one of these, honestly, just because the glass is, this full jar weighs less than this empty jar, just for point of reference, is how thick the glass we use is. So yeah, I definitely think that helps when some people are playing with these. They feel how solid they are, and that stability may have an effect subliminally after the point of sale. But yeah, I'd say the sticker across the seal is the main thing that helps people get confidence in the freshness. Those snobby people who don't like the deli style again. Yeah, like me.
So if, assuming that the glasses that you currently use and the Canlock were relatively the same price, what would make you choose one or the other if you were deciding how to store the weed at the store?
Well, reliability and effectiveness are always going to be two of my go-to functions. You know, it's can I depend on it to do what it says it does, and how well does it do what it says it does? And once I, screwed one up and learned the limits, these two are honestly really fabulous. I immediately went out and got, as you can tell, just like a whole bunch of flour to test them with because I got real excited. And they have not disappointed. I mean, this has a rich, cheesy nose, which I can't get a single trace of, which I love. I could carry this in my pocket and be at work selling flour to people, and they would smell the flour in the case under the glass more than they would smell what I had in my front pocket. With the purple punch.
What do you think about the concept of branding these? Like, it would define benefit from having a branded, it says Canlock on one side and it says Divine on the other, sticker around it with Divine. Is that something that you think would be of interest to dispensaries?
Absolutely. Getting your name out there, especially when you're not one of these big companies like Chalice, like Nectar, these companies that have like 10, 12 locations across the state or more. When you are just a little mom and pop shop, like we are 2 stores, there are a lot of little dispensaries that don't have a great way to get their name out there. I absolutely think branding opportunities are priceless, especially when it's a quality product you want to keep around. That's the thing. When people love us, they put our stickers on their weed box. Like my toolbox is covered with stickers from the store because I love the store. And there's a lot of folks that do the same thing. So if you really like something, yeah, you slap a logo on it so that when you see it, you feel good. Or if the logo's already there and it's something that makes you feel good, you again develop these positive associations.
And in terms of, products like this, I know you were saying it sounds like you don't carry any storage containers. Is this something that you think customers would buy, or would they expect to buy it someplace else?
Honestly, I find that, we don't get a ton of requests for them, but I find, whenever you don't have something, people are always going to be disappointed. Like in the first, 2 weeks of the pandemic, when everything was getting closed down, we sold out of all of our water pipes. Every single one, no matter how costly, they're all gone. And we've had so many people disappointed because they come in and we don't really have any except for the like weird little ones that aren't what people are necessarily expecting. And so I definitely think it would appeal. There would certainly be, even if we sold them singly, like in the package that I got with the white box with the window and the weed print insert, I think that we could sell those honestly relatively easily.
And do you think that the $20 price, I'm trying to remember what they're because they were on special.
I think for the big one.
Pardon me?
I think it said 18 for the big one.
Yeah, and I think it was less. I'd have to go on Amazon and double check, or we can go on the website. But let's say as a store, you were wholesaling them and you either had to keep on stock like 50 at a time or 100 at a time. Is that realistic, or do stores carry less inventory than that in the back?
That is a difficult thing to say. Last time we had stash jars in, they were just like a standard jar with a rubber gasket in the glass lid, and they had, you know, some sort of like weed design under the glass lid, and those took forever to sell. Those didn't have the same selling points, but we still sold stash jars. We've even sold like blown stash jars that didn't even seal that well. They just had a huge piece of cork in the end. So, I mean, there's certainly a market. Inevitably, they will get sold. As far as how much raw stock, I can certainly see a dispensary our size moving 50 between both of our stores in a single order, because we order for 2 stores at a time, at least at first. And I mean, if it is something that turns out to be something popular, of course, larger. But as far as keeping on hand, it's hard for me to compare us to other people because we run things fairly differently from a lot of other people. I don't want to go into our exact business practices, but there are aspects of our dispensary that set us apart fairly distinctly from a lot of other dispensaries in the state.
Interesting. Interesting to hear. Now we're going to take, I want to be sensitive to your time, but I wanted to go and check out the sites. I don't know who keeps coming in to try to rain on our parade of our meeting. They keep showing up, but I'm not letting them in, whoever they are. Okay, so let's take a look at the website. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. Whoops. That is not what I meant to do. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Canlock. So I'm going to just take a quick glance at the Canlock. Canlocklabs.com. I should have had this on my screen. I'll know that that's something for next time.
Yeah.
And so this is the corporate site. Yeah. And one thing is that we haven't really talked a lot about preservation. Is that a thing? Like, do people get educated about preservation?
I mean, yes, but mostly by either their friends and family or by bud tenders themselves. Sometimes you find people that educate themselves because they're already somewhat knowledgeable about herbs and such, because we are such a big foodie community. There tends to be a significant amount of that. But yeah, I mean, canning, preserving, there's a lot of that in Oregon.
And what do you think of the idea? So one capacity up to 15 grams or 12 of the king size, 8 grams or 4 grams. What role or what popularity do you think it would have? Like, what would be the top seller and the secondary seller? Or, you know, is there room for 3 different types of sizes?
I can definitely see. I mean, the little one might be the hardest sell because it is overall the highest, you know, per pound price point. But I don't know. It's hard for me to say whether the middle or the large would be the biggest seller. I can sell a lot of the big ones simply based on the fact that you can fit king-size joints in an airtight container. If I tell people I can put 3/4 of an ounce of joints in this container and carry it around and it doesn't stink, that is going to be a selling point all in and of itself. Just the fact that you can get a good airtight. I mean, I use those plastic tubes. They may be airtight, but they are not smell proof. The smell lingers on them. I can smell it on myself when it's in my pocket. It still leaks terpenes. And so having something where I can literally just throw it in my shoulder bag and know that if I walk by somebody in the park, they're not going to think I was assaulted by a gang of skunks.
Well, you also mentioned the possibility of using it for other purposes, for other things other than weed. Is that a selling point, or if you're in a dispensary, is that all you care about is the weed, or would that versatility matter?
that depends on the customer. I try and read I mean, if they come in and they're just sort of like, hey, I just want what I want and I want to get out. But if they're willing to jabber a little bit, I tend to feel them out a little bit more. If they're interested in food and things, which tends to be a really easy topic to get people into. It's like, do you cook? Yes or no? Okay, good. Then we're done with that topic, or we're going to delve further in. And if they're interested in it, it's when I would start to throw things like that in. Or, if they say that if they complain about dry flower, for example, that'd be a perfect opportunity. Or, and that tends to be also something where you have to have those skills, those people skills to feel out your customers, to be able to really tell who's going to be the best match.
Do you see this image with the suit and the $10 bill and this? What is that? What does that say?
I'm still on a page that looks like a new tab page, says local manager.
Oh, I'm glad you told me. Let me share that. It sounds like I wasn't sharing. Oh, yeah, that wasn't the right thing. Okay. Do you see it now?
Yeah. Ooh, I like that.
What does that say to you? Like, what is that?
I don't know. Honestly, I almost like the clean image a little bit better because, I don't know, being who I am, I'm a little bit OCD. And so my reaction to money is, that's dirty. And so I'm glad that what looks like candy is locked away inside the jar is my immediate reaction because money's dirty.
What do you think?
I don't like money touched.
What do you think of this one with the broccoli on the left? Did you see that?
Scroll over a little.
Hold on, let me see if I can scroll over. I don't know.
I see the edge, I think.
Hold on. You see the broccoli? What does that say to you when you see an image? What does that convey?
Broccoli has kind of been a metaphor for cannabis in a few communities before, especially having it all piled in like that, because honestly, that's probably not how I'd store broccoli. Broccoli actually appreciates being wrapped in a towel rather than being kept in an airtight container, which is better for dried herbs rather than humid herbs. But it seems to me almost to be just like a veiled cannabis reference, which I think is how a lot of people would read it because of the absurdity of putting broccoli in a jar like that.
Mm-hmm. And I want to be sensitive to your time, but I just wanted to check out. When you were looking at the website, did anything jump out at you as being particularly good or bad?
Of course, always the free shipping stuff, banners on top, always draw my interest because I order enough stuff online. I know how well it adds up. I do like that preservation is one of their big topics across the top and in the menu to help explain to people and educate them about terpenes and molds and trichomes, because they have to find this information somewhere. The responsibility is up to all of the members of the community. And so it's always nice to find people that are taking that option to share that information for free. I've seen a lot of people in the community where, say, some novice grower asks a question and they're like, "It's $50 an hour, man." It's like, okay, well, that's how you just create an exclusive community instead of an inclusive community. So I really like the fact that they put, shop is the number one thing, of course, because you got to sell your stuff, but then it immediately moves into about and preservation and what they do as their overall vision, which I like because, again, I'm an Oregonian. I like people who actually care at all about nature and keeping things clean and fresh. And I'm also a huge foodie, so I care about keeping my herbs good and fresh.
Mm-hmm. So here they kind of touch, we're kind of going back and forth between the consumer and the business side, the corporate side. So so we had touched on this before. Does this feel like resonates as an upsell opportunity for a store that you feel good about?
Yeah, I mean, I would really like to see a lot more uniformity in the industry, and honestly, it would be super ideal if we could have some sort of standardized glass jar diameter that could be uh, more uniform. And I mean, whether it's, this size works great. This is as good as any other I've seen, frankly. So if we had some sort of standardized where we could even offer just like glass jar with a regular lid as a base and then as a slight upsell glass jar with a vacuum seal lid, that sort of more universal, more standardized situation would to me be absolutely ideal. But it's something where we'd have to work toward it through little steps like this, having these things on hand where we can even if it's just selling them the empty jar alongside the standard glass jar of flour that I sell now, or our discount flour does come in plastic bags. And so it would make an easy upsell alongside our budget bags to some people who like to only spend, say, less than 40 on a quarter of flour and get plenty of flour to smoke, but they don't like keeping it in those bags either. They would be willing to spend, you know, an extra 10 or 15 maybe to make sure that it was kept in good quality on top of what they were already selling or more, I think.
Uh, okay, and we're just looking at the Instagram page. Can you see that now?
Uh-huh.
Um, what do you think this triangle with the exclamation point, what does that mean to you?
Always attention, you know, warning.
Okay. Uh, any commentary on this design that they're printing? What you think would sell best, if at anything, at your dispensary, if they were going to design something on the outside?
Ooh, difficult choice. I have such a wide variety of customers. Black is generally, I would say, the most common, but again, I have a ton of hunters, a ton of fabulous people, a ton of people who like shiny stuff, people who just like something a little colorful but not too outlandish.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I can see all of those, but black is always going to be the most obvious to me because a lot of people like something subtle that doesn't just shout out at people, hey, look at my weed jar. Some people do like to say, hey, look at my weed jar, but I work with a lot of professionals, parents, people who have to separate what they do to keep themselves sane from what they do to the adults
Mm-hmm.
still.
Got it. Well, as we wrap up, is there any way that you suggest we could go about educating bud tenders and consumers about the importance of freshness in a way that would resonate with them and not feel too preachy or judgmental?
Yeah, I always try and keep it a little folksy. Is one of my cures because I can come off as really cold and academic sometimes because I get really into the science and stuff. And so I make it relatable. People call it herb. It is an herb. You take care of it like an herb because it's an herb, man. You know, and you keep it simple like that. People understand that you have to take care of your herbs. People have known to keep herbs in cool, dry places for hundreds of years, and this is the same thing, man. Those jars are pretty cool, and they're very dry, and they're definitely places.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Ryan. Is there anything else you have to add before we wrap up?
No, I'm just thank you for the opportunity, and I really appreciate Canlock for the product. It's really awesome. Thank you for the free shirt, of course. And yeah, anytime you want to send me more jars, I'm here for it.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Thanks for taking the time. You're always such a pleasure to speak with about this and any other topic. Before we get going, um, do you feel like you want to like share anything? You know, like you mentioned that you had some like PTSD stuff. Did you want to share about that? Would that be helpful?
Oh no, it's been a long weekend, and I do appreciate that. Honestly, just frankly, having people who is one of the reasons I love the community I'm part of now
Mhm.
through my job, through all of these things, because there are a lot of people who do exactly that, who reach out and say, hey, are you doing okay? Do you need to talk about it? Because
Mhm.
just feeling less isolated is a huge, huge thing, I think, for a lot of people with mental distress, emotional distress, mental health issues. And so I have had a lot of people reach out. My kids take good care of me. My eldest got a job not that long ago, and she's been picking up just tons of hours at Subway. And so today she made me my first sandwich because I was having too much of an anxiety attack yesterday to be able to eat. And it was really, really awesome. No, it's been a really good day. I've been practicing some more self-care. I'm about to go finish braising some boneless ribs in Korean sauce and stir frying the vegetables and cooking the rice to go with them. So I'm taking good care of myself, trying to take good care of my girls, which always helps me feel a bit better about myself when I am well enough to take care of my responsibilities. I just have to remember to forgive myself for needing to stop and breathe sometimes, which
I
is
relate
not
to
always.
that. Well, thank you for opening up and sharing. It's always a pleasure to speak with you. And it's been great getting to know you and having a kind of go-to guy when I'm looking for insights on stuff. So I appreciate that.
I appreciate you. I really do. Honestly, every interaction we've had has been just an absolute delight. And I really appreciate all of the opportunities, minding the, not DNR, but the various
NDA.
agreements we have, just sort of dancing around anything specific about anything that we actually talk about that might apply to the NDA. It's just been really cool to open up to some of the other people in the industry about these things. And I don't know, I mean, I offer some of these to other people, but I think other people are still scared about getting their faces out there sometimes, about having people know that they work in the industry. And when I reached 40, it was really weird. It was like a switch flipped, and I just ran out of the ability to care what as many people thought about me. I've been through 10 years of abuse. I've been through so many things, and I've spent my entire life sick to death with worry about what other people thought of me. And
Mm-hmm.
I found that I was able to downgrade that by at least a full 40% on my 40th birthday. And I care significantly less about what other people think of me anymore, as long as I know that I'm doing a good job. And so I appreciate it. It means a
Sure.
lot that I have people around me that care enough to reach out, even if we only know each other through this sort of situation.